Hey everybody, and welcome to another Interstellar Modeler. This is now part 1 of my Y-Wing Starfighter build. Alright, well I'm getting ready to start the build. The instructions say to start off with the cockpit, but I'm going to go ahead and hold off on that right now, just because I know I want to do some detailing and painting on that, and just looking ahead on the instructions, I think it would be best if we start off with the main body. Alright, well as I'm test fitting these pieces, I want to just take a second to draw your attention again to the really nice detailing that you see on the surface. Plastic is excellent quality as well. Pieces are sliding together quite nicely. As I'm reading through these instructions, and if you remember now, the model is molded in all these colors, that you really could just assemble this model fairly quickly if you just follow along the instructions if you didn't want to do any painting or detailing. Alright, well I'm going to go ahead and stop here to prime these pieces. I'm going to go ahead and prime all of these here, and since I'm going to be doing that, I might as well go ahead and do this as well. And so I'll get you caught up with me here in just a second. Alright guys, wanted to show you before I move on the front section of the ship primed here, and you can see the details are nicely preserved. They're not affected by the primer. Sometimes primers can be fairly thick and cause those issues, but not a problem here with this Stynylrez primer. It's recommended that you up your airbrush pressure to 30 versus say 15 or so that you typically spray with paint. The product is obviously a little thicker than paint, but I had no issue with it going on. It went on pretty smooth and did not cause any problems with my airbrush. It was very easy to clean it. Alright, so let's go ahead and move along now. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to construct the midsection of the ship, and so what I have to do is apply more of these pieces, and before any of this tubing and rods go on, I'm going to go ahead and start painting this section here. So I'm going to be using these three colors. The body of the ship is going to be painted with this color. I was just at the model store and I was just looking at different shades of gray. I decided on this Lichtblau RLM76 by Testors. And then for the front section, I'm going to be using this light gray by Testors. And then for the gray-blue accents, I'm going to be using this one here, Intermediate Blue. And then we'll be using Chrome Yellow for the yellow stripe here on the nose. Now my plan is to take advantage of this darker gray color here. As we weather the ship, what I'm going to be using is a masking fluid here to create this chipped effect. So we're going to be using masking fluid along with the Tamiya detailing kit to create these burn charred areas there. As for the body, we're going to go ahead and, as I said, assemble it further. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint it with that lighter gray. I'm going to apply a wash and then continue assembling the model by applying all these little rods. Now, some of the rods have to be painted kind of a copper color, so I'll be doing that as I go along as well. So a lot of these pieces are snapping in quite nicely there. You don't really have to apply glue. They are pretty secure. So let's go ahead and put a bit more of this together. I'll show you how this works. Alright, so here we now have the piece painted with that Lichtblau color. I've added more detailing, including the supports for the engines. One thing I decided to do was, instead of just relying on copper for some of the rods that are supposed to be this brownish color, is over the copper I am adding a wash of Testors Rust, just to kind of make it more dull. The copper just seemed a bit too shiny. The other thing you might notice is I've left out the R2 unit for now. I think I'm going to go ahead and make that as part of the display, so we'll see how that goes. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue to move forward. Most of what we need to do now is continue to add more of these rods and tubes that are going to go along the top and bottom of the ship. Alright, I wanted to show you a bit more progress here. You can see I've added more of the rods and tubing here. The rust wash has worked pretty nicely to dull down that copper color. And in addition to that, I've added a black wash as well, just to give it a bit more grime. And you can see I'm starting to apply the wash here on the surface as well. Now, how you color these tubes is pretty much up to you, obviously. I've seen a variety of builds online, and you'll find some people color all of the ones they apply to the model. Others are just making you know, one or two of them, this rust color. So it really is up to you. As I looked at the studio pictures of the models that were used in the film, it's really kind of hard to tell. So I'm just going to color them as I want to here. And the other thing we're going to add eventually are pastels here. Use a combination of black and brown pastels just to add even a bit more color and grime and dirt. Alright, so now we're done with most of the assembly here. We're going to go ahead and move on to the engines, starting off with this piece here. So just bear in mind, as you're putting these pieces into place, there are these little slots here that correspond to the length of this adjoining piece here. So there are some that are shorter, for example, on this side, versus this one that's open. So obviously the shorter one is going to go with this piece here. You see the shorter piece there. And the longer one, or the open one, is going to go with the longer slot here. Alright, so now that our engine is completed here, or at least this piece is assembled, I'm applying now the Tamiya weathering kit using this applicator and the black pigment here, and just kind of brushing it on here with the sponge applicator. And you can see it does quite an effective job at darkening up the end here. So let's go ahead and spray the dull coat, and we'll continue to move on. Alright, getting ready to assemble the rest of the engines. You can see this is this front section that goes here, and I use that liquid mask technique to give us this chip-worn paint. And as you can see, this is just about ready to peel off, so let's go ahead and do that. And you can see it comes right off. Alright, so I originally painted it a light gray color, and then over that I applied the blue-gray, and you can see it peels right off here. So another way to do this is a salt technique, which works pretty well. This one, though, is a little bit quicker. The salt technique, however, just gives you a different, more stippled appearance. So before I assemble the engines, I wanted to show you the front sections here. These are, of course, the areas where the caps go over. I'm going to leave one of them exposed. If you recall, I'm going to be building this in the landed configuration with a ground crew working around it. So it'll be a nice way to show off the detailing here. This was detailed with the Tamiya weathering kit along with a black wash, and I used copper to color in some of these areas here. Alright, before laying down the paint for the nose, I was just going to show you how I have everything masked off here to give us the appearance of battle damage and chipped and worn paint. If you recall, now we have it primed over with Stynol Res primer, and over that now I've masked in certain areas just using a toothpick. Now I've applied this mask all from Humbrol, and it's just liquid masking fluid that will dry here, and once we apply the light gray color, we'll be able to peel those areas away. You'll be able to see exposing the undercoat, of course, and that will give us that appearance that we're looking for. And I've done the same things to the covers of, I'll call them the nacelles here, or the engines. Again, we just want that chipped, worn look for this area as well. Alright, so this is how the nose piece looks now after we've chipped away the masking fluid. And we'll detail this a little further, just as we did with the engines there. And the next step will be now to work on assembling the rest of the engines, but also painting the yellow piece here. Also added, as you can see, some masking fluid there as well. And then the stripe has to go on the cover of the engines around here. It's going to be yellow as well. Now, one other thing I almost forgot about was to paint this blue stripe that's located along here. I'll show you a picture of it from this model. And the model does come with decals, as I showed you in the preview, but we're not going to use these. I'm going to go ahead and paint the stripe on using the same blue-gray that we're using for this section here. And as you can see, I've dabbed on a little bit of masking fluid to give us that stippled appearance. So let's go ahead and apply the blue paint now. Let's go ahead and peel away the masking tape here now. Alright, I think it turned out pretty well. Alright, so getting ready to assemble the engines here, but I've decided to go ahead and add the wash now and make it easier to get around all these areas. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and let this dry. Alright, so as you can see, I've attached one engine to the main body, leaving off the cover here. One thing I did find helpful, however, was to have some of this glue on hand. This is an adhesive made by Tamiya, and it comes with a little brush applicator. Let me just show you real quick. And allows you to kind of get into tight spaces, so I found that useful in this particular instance. So let's go ahead and do the other engine. Alright, so with this side we are leaving the dome on the front here. So just press this one into place. These just slide into these slots here, and there's two other slots right here. That's what these holes are for. And the other thing I'm doing is I'm just dabbing just a tiny bit of paint right here where you can see in the light here, if you can see that gray piece right there that stands out. I'm just dabbing a little paint on that so it blends in. Okay, and here's the engine now assembled, and I'm going to go ahead and attach it now to the main body. Alright, and here you go. Alright, so I finished adding the pastels there, and things are moving along quite nicely. The trickiest thing so far for me has been assembling the engines, but the second one went together a little easier than the first one. What we have left to do now is to add some rods and other pieces along here. Also to, of course, finish the front section. And speaking about the canopy now, this model comes with two canopies. You can make it in the closed configuration, that's what this is for here. Or you can make it in the open configuration, which is what I plan to do, and you have to utilize this clear piece. So this has to be masked over and painted. I'll show you how I'm going to do that in the next video. I'm going to go ahead and end this one here because it's getting a little long, so in part 2 we will not only cover the canopy, but we'll finish assembling the ship, and then we're going to work on the display. As I mentioned, I'm going to be creating a diorama type display base, and for that I've purchased this Hasegawa ground equipment set that comes with figurines as well as equipment. So we're going to utilize some of this kit and create a nice display base for our Y-Wing. Alright, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me as usual at interstellarmodeler@gmail.com or leave a comment here. I will see you then in part 2. Thanks again for watching.